Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome in to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Look forward to today's show because Coach Spurrier is back in the saddle to talk about a lot of things. We'll talk about Gator baseball and a bunch of other stuff. Don't know who the guest is going to be on Friday's show yet. It could be one of two people, and both of them are pretty big deal, or it could be none of two people. We don't know. I got to wait and find out. We'll let you know. We'll try to let you know on Twitter and on Facebook if one of those people is going to be on. If not, then we'll just get somebody else that's not that interesting, like Chris Harry. Oh, please don't tell him I said that, okay? Don't tell him I said that. I'm just kidding. I do want to talk to Chris, and he's always a great guest. Let's get to our starting five, which we're going to sell it. My daughter and I have talked about her starting to sell some advertising for the podcast, and I'm hoping that somebody will be nice enough to listen to her about selling it. She's going to get a commission. It's going to be her money, so believe me, she needs a job, so it's good. All right, I get sinuses all of a sudden. All right, starting five, number one, baseball. Did you hear Florida is going to the College World Series? It's just breaking news. Obviously, the weekend was incredible. What was most incredible was the crowd to me on Friday night. Now, I didn't go Saturday. My thinking was, don't go Saturday, but if you have to go Sunday, you'll be there. Friday, I had to go. I just had to be there. Obviously being out all the week before. It was unbelievable crowd. It was intense. It was like a football crowd. It reminded me of the Florida-Auburn crowd the year, 2019? When Florida beat Auburn and the crowd was loud the entire game. This was not a baseball crowd. This was a football crowd. In fact, my wife said that a few people got thrown out because, again, you gave them 2.5 hours to go to Salty Dog like I did. But I was not belligerent. I just sat there and watched like a nervous wreck the whole time. But I did go to that game. Look, if you build it, right, you build this great stadium and people have gotten used to it. My wife's one of those who said, at first I wasn't that fond of the stadium. Now I want to go there for every game. If the College World Series was being played there, they would have a blast. But we have talked about Karen and Kelsey going out there. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think her brother's going out there. Anyway, it was just a great crowd. 17,290 people showed up for those two games. And Florida, can't criticize baseball fans, Florida baseball fans anymore, ever again. I'm done. Now, I've been there when Gator fans were hanging off the trees to play when they played FSU at McKeithen under Andy Lopez. I was there. I never saw anything like that. This crowd was the greatest crowd on Friday night I've ever seen for a Florida baseball game, and you should applaud yourselves. Let's get to number two, and that is how Florida's pitching dominated 12 games in the regionals. 7 games in the regionals. Florida gave up 12 runs the entire time. All of them are earned runs, too. And that is part of the reason why you're able to keep it to 12, because you don't make errors behind them. There were a couple of errors, but they didn't end up giving up runs. But that is the key. That's going to be the key out there in Omaha. There's no doubt about it. With Virginia coming up, Virginia pounds the ball. If Florida can pitch well, like they've been pitching, they'll be fine. They'll advance. They'll keep going. By the way, Wake Forest, I looked up the odds today. Wake Forest is the favorite, not surprisingly, number 1 seed. They blew everybody out. And a little bit later, we're going to have Jeff Cardozo on to do yes, no, where, maybe. And I got a good one for him. But they're 5-2 as favorites, Wake Forest. The next two favorites are Florida and LSU. Now, I don't know if my stomach can take Florida LSU. I could take Florida Tennessee barely without puking at some point. What I want to see is Florida Wake Forest. I want to see 1 versus 2, and if Wake Forest is just good enough, that's fine. We've been through a series of Wake Forest. We've seen some amazing baseball in 2017 here. But Florida is the second favorite with LSU. Number 3 on the starting 5, Tennessee won last night. If you stayed up for it, you are a baseball nut or a Tennessee nut or I guess a Southern Miss nut. And I know there are some out there. But the game started at 10:06. Again, this comes back to why I lose my mind with ESPN. But in the end, they're still going to do what they need to do. The game is going to start at 6. But it's going to rain at 6. How about starting it at 3 or 2 or 1 instead? No, we're going to start at 6 because that's a good spot for our marketing. Well, it's not going to be played. It didn't get played till 10:06. And then it ended whenever it ended. But Tennessee won. Good for them. Stanford beating Texas on a fly ball that somebody lost in the lights was the most incredible thing. I felt so bad for the people of Texas, our brethren now, because they're coming into the SEC. And here are I'm jumping the gun on the Ben Eige Odell Realty games of the weekend for Friday's show, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the game times are because they finally established those. Florida is playing at 7 o'clock against Virginia on Friday, and Oral Roberts is playing the earlier game at 2 o'clock against TCU. Then Saturday, it's Stanford at Wake. Not Wake. They're at Omaha is where they are, and they're playing Wake Forest at 2 o'clock, and then Tennessee LSU at 7. I'm just going to root for injuries. That's all I can do. I'm sorry. Number 4, the NBA Finals last night. I watched every minute of it. I don't know why I've gotten obsessed with it. I'm not really into Denver or anything, but I'm into the Joker. I mean, I just love watching him play basketball. I love watching the way the team plays around him. I am mesmerized by how well everybody adapts to hit what he's doing, and they have gotten to know it. And again, it's a lot of games. What do they play in the NBA? 82 games, and then you get the playoffs and everything. Miami just ran out of gas. Jimmy Butler obviously wasn't very good down the stretch. He just ran out of gas, and not only that, but there's not a lot of gas in Denver because there's not a lot of air. I've been there. It is that way. But it was a fun finals, even though it was 4-1. I enjoyed it, and Jokic, 30.2 points, 14 rebounds, 7.2 assists, first player ever to average. That was the highest average for any player in a finals, he's the best player in the world. I'm sorry, he is. And you guys can all say, oh, it's racism. It's not racism. I watch the games. He's the best. He's unbelievable. Anyway, finally, number 5, the U.S. Open snuck up on me, as every major it feels like has this year. Maybe there's just been a lot of stuff going on with work and life and everything like that. But it is this week, and I can't wait for it. I'm making my pick. Victor Hovland is my pick. I got in a pool, and I picked him to win it as well. I picked the last 2 correct, John Rahm, Brooks Koepka. Really going out on a limb there, Dooley. But I'm taking Victor Hovland, who I love watching play golf as well. McIlroy and Kipke in the same group. That'll be fun. Maybe they'll talk at some point. Or maybe they won't speak. Maybe it'll be, nice to meet you. Although I will say this. I don't like Brooks Koepka mainly because he's weird and he's a knoll. There's 2 things going against him. And then he went to live, and I went, I can't be a Kepka guy, right? But I love watching the guy play, and I do like his mentality of I only care about majors, which is all you should really care about if you're a professional golfer, if you're good enough to win those majors. Now, if you're not, then you shouldn't care about them, But so I got no problem with Kepka, and of course, all this live stuff, I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but we finally have a better feeling about what really happened with this live stuff. And I'll talk about that when I get to the Hesser and Kipke 3 things. So that is our starting 5. We'll bring on Coach Spurrier, and then we'll also do our Campus USA play of the weekend. I got a lot to choose from. And look forward to having Coach on. We know it'll be great. He always is. We'll take a break, though. Right now, you are watching or listening to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Dooley Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Eige-Broker to go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Eige-Broker to go. Come on down and enjoy it. Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, and welcome in back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. And of course, all of Coach Spurrier's appearances are brought to you by the great folks at Meldon Law. I saw Jeffrey out of the games this weekend, and I know you were out there, right?
Yeah, I watched both of them. Our guys played very well, and I like winning 5-4. It's always a good omen. We won a crucial game in high school. We beat the Kingsport Indians in the tournament. They'd beaten us both times in regular season,
really?
Which was the only two games we had lost. They'd clobbered us like 13-1, 13-2, something like that, both games. And we beat them 5-4 in the finals of the region, which is like the super region in college, to send us to the state tournament where we won it my junior year and then won it again our senior year. So when you win 5-4, good things happen. Just write that down, okay? Good things are going to happen for us.
I will write that down. But it's amazing. My wife gets mad at me because I remember scores of games. I mean, you remember more than anybody. You're great at remembering.
Let me tell you something else that happened in that 5-4 game. All the Gators were out there. South Carolina had the bases loaded, 1 out, and the guy hit the one hopper to the pitcher, home to first. We did that in that game. We beat Kingsport 5-4. The same thing happened. They had the bases loaded, actually nobody out, and the guy hit one to me, home to first, and we were down 4-2 at the time. So we came back and scored 3 in the last 2 innings to win it. But good things happen when that one hopper to the pitcher, home to first, happens for a double play. So if you see that happen, that team usually wins. I'm serious.
Do you think that one reason that you enjoy Gator baseball and because I think baseball was kind of your favorite sport, or yeah, it was your best sport.
It was my best sport till junior, senior year in high school. Little league ball, my dad was the manager, and so heck, he put me on the 10, 11, 12-year-old Little League team when I was 7. And they stuck me in right field one game. I don't know if I got an at-bat, but I got to play right
They put you in
field.
right field, that's the worst
That was
place to
usually the
go.
spot nothing bad happens. But, yeah, I got in at 7-year-old and then played all through 12-year-old and so forth.
You probably didn't run any shifts back then, right?
Oh, that shift is, everybody does that, don't
I
they?
know. Well, they outlawed it in Major League Baseball. I
Uh-huh.
think they should outlaw it everywhere.
Well,
right?
you'd think you could teach a guy just swing late, just wait a little bit and see if
Yeah.
you can hit it down that third base or second base or whatever. But, yeah, that is unusual. Yeah, that shift.
Yeah, and I know Ray Tanner was there this weekend, right?
Yeah, he was here for
Yep.
watching the South Carolina teams. Came by the restaurant, in fact, the first night. So he said he had a good time.
Good guy.
over
I
here.
always like Ray.
Yeah,
you know,
wonderful
he has a
guy.
relationship with him.
He won back-to-back national championships in baseball at South Carolina. So he coached one more year and then became the AD there.
Just a good dude. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I always hated him when he was in South Carolina when he was a baseball coach because Florida was competing with him all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like also, Pat, the way our team did not over-celebrate after, going to Omaha. It's one step, nice celebrate a little bit, but they
We
didn't
talked about
overdo
that
it.
last week, how after they won the regional, they were just like, okay, all right, good, let's go.
Let's go to the next
step.
one. Yeah, to achieve your goals, you got to go, one step at a time. And Coach Wooden used to always say, small celebrations and small dejections as you go through your journey of the entire season. If you're fortunate to win it all and there's no more games to play, you can celebrate.
Yeah.
You can celebrate then.
Exactly. And I don't know if you've watched, you mentioned Coach Wooden, I don't know if you've watched the Bill Walton documentary that's on ESPN. I watched, it's called The Luckiest Guy in the World. And but there's a lot of Wooden in it. And I'm watching Wooden, and when I was a kid, I didn't really know John Wooden or anything. I never interviewed him. But just hearing what the things he said, and every time he would say something like the pyramid and everything, I would go, that's Coach Spurrier. That's the same thing that you were always taking from him. You took a lot from him, didn't you?
I tried to study his teachings and the way he coached, and one of the best compliments I ever had is his guy that wrote the book with him. I forget his name, but he called me one day, I think it was like in 97 or 8, and he says, Coach Wooden's birthday. It's like 94 or 3, something like that. And if you want to call him, say happy birthday, here's his number.
Really?
So I said, yeah. So I called him up, and he answered right away. And I told him I really enjoyed reading his books and his motivational papers and this, that, and the other, and the way his teams played. And I said, Coach, I try to do it a lot like you did it. And he said, I can tell because I watch you guys play.
Really?
So that was
Wow.
as good a compliment as you can get.
That is pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. Also a coach who I know you have a lot of admiration for, Mouse Holloway, wins another national championship.
The men got one and the women got second.
Second,
And
yeah.
sometimes we need to celebrate, hey, second ain't all that bad. It's very good. Second best women's track team in America. So the men, we all give the glory to the guy that won it all, but sometimes you come in second. So our women have a lot to be proud of. Also, just like our women's gymnastics team came in second 2 years in a row. Just happened to go up against a team that was a tad bit better that day or that night. But anyway, celebrate those second place in the nation finishes also.
Florida just needs to get good at sports that are played in the fall. I mean,
Well, football and basketball, those are the two sports that we had a losing season. And I think everything else was winners. Women basketball, they still finished above.
they went to the
They were above
NCAA.
500, yeah. So, football and basketball, they need to get better.
no doubt. And Todd Golden is putting together quite a class. In fact, he got 7'1" guy.
I think our transfer team coming in is ranked pretty high.
Yep. it is.
One or two in the country as far as transfers, and that's the name of the game nowadays. It used to be called recruiting. Now it's transfers because they're older. Recruiting, you get a freshman out of high
Well,
school.
that's what like Oral Roberts and a couple other teams. Wake Forest is a baseball team that's built on the portal and older guys, and that's what you need now. I mean, that's how you win in college. It doesn't necessarily like Calipari's still going to get nothing but one and doneers, but that's how you win college championships. Is by and this is a different world that we're living in now.
I tell you, the Oklahoma softball pitcher, I think she got in the portal and went
She did, went
back
to
to her
Nebraska,
home
yeah.
state of Nebraska. and it'll be interesting to see if she can lead them to a championship. Time will tell.
Yep, and I mean, again, I think whatever she wants to do is what you have the freedom now.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, I
Yeah.
mean, it would have been weird if you had a transfer portal back in the 60s.
Well, I can see her point. Hey, I've already won 2 here. Oklahoma's probably going to win another one next year, but if I can go to Nebraska and help them win one, that would really be something special.
You know, I've been talking a lot too about football and about like there's days when I hear from people that seem like they know, and they're talking up the football program and where they're going and how they're going to be better than everybody thinks this year. There are other days when people are talking. But as you said a million years ago, it's talking season, right?
Yeah, and we may be a lot better defensively. That's an area that the fans don't quite look at. But we were 14th in third down conversions. That means bottom of the SEC. We were 11th in total defense, giving up yards. And, I mean, my 12 years here, the worst defense we had was maybe 4th in the conference, something like that, 4th or 5th. We were never down in there like that. So when you got a bad defense, you can't get the other team off the field. Offense doesn't have as many opportunities. And the quarterback, you don't need a great quarterback to win big all the time. You need a great team. And there's plenty of good quarterbacks out there. I was talking to a guy actually this morning. He's doing a story on my man Clarkston Hines at Duke.
Yeah.
And Clarkston's All-American, went in the College Football Hall of Fame. And he said, Coach, you realize Clarkston played with 4 different quarterbacks during his 3 years. I said, yeah, I know that. And he had Steve Sladen his sophomore year. Anthony Dilwig became ACC Player of the Year the next year. And then Billy Ray and Dave Brown. Billy sort of sprained his shoulder a little bit, and Dave Brown played the last 3 games. And it didn't matter who played quarterback for Clarkston Hines. He's still going to catch touchdowns and passes all over the place and help those teams win. But anyway, he was making a point. It really didn't matter who the quarterback was. They all threw to Clarkston Hines, and he led the conference in touchdowns, was Player of the Year, and all that.
How many of those guys played for you with the Bandits?
The Bandits, Greg Boone, the running back, came down and played very well. Carl Franks.
Because your quarterbacks were Reeves and Jimmy Jordan, right?
Yeah. I got John the first year down there, and Jimmy Jordan, FSU and Florida quarterbacks. We had the rights to those schools. So first thing I did with John used to have a big old wind-up, and I said, John, I'm not changing how the ball comes out of your hand. God gives you the ability to throw passes. Right. John had tremendous ability to throw a nice spiral, catchable ball and all that. But you don't need that big wind-up. So we just shortened him up a little bit, step and throw, and he was really good. He threw for over 4,000 yards in back-to-back years. Yeah. And, John had a sensational year, especially in '84 when we were 14-4. So anyway, he was a really, really good player. Jimmy Jordan was pretty good also when he played.
Another one of your former players is up for the College Football Hall of Fame. Brad Culpepper was on the ballot. On the ballot now. I don't know, but I don't. There's a lot of great players on that ballot, and it's hard for me to go. Yeah, Culpepper's got to. But I mean, if you stay on it long enough, maybe he'll be able to get in.
Yeah, Brad's well deserving. Eric Redd. Eric Redd's the leading rusher in Florida football history. And in his 4 years, we won 3 SECs and lost the championship game the other year. That guy was a winner. And we were winners because of Eric Redd, Shane Matthews, all the defensive guys. So, of course, Shane was his quarterback until '93, and then Danny and Terry Dean. Terry Dean played extremely well a whole bunch of those games. He was SEC Player of the Year, Player of the Game in the championship, MVP, '93 championship. Yeah.
But Culpepper was just, you didn't expect him to be that great, but he had that quickness. He could get around guys and move, he was a very smart, very cerebral player. Yeah,
he played well in there with Tony McCoy. Yep. Oh man, we had a lot of good D linemen as well as linebackers in those 90, 91 teams and so forth. But in fact, his nephew is the second baseman on our baseball team now. Yeah. So Uncle Brad, I think he calls him. So anyway, Culpeppers are big in Florida football history. his dad, was a good player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Culpepper.
Yeah.
He was,
Good one.
in fact, I think Brad.
Pat Culpepper, wasn't it? Pat Culpepper?
Yeah, it might have been.
I think it was his dad's
But
name.
I think Brad named his kids Judge and something else, but anyway. But he's a good dude, and obviously down there in Tampa. I hope he gets in, but like I said, it was like Warwick Dunn and all these great players that are going to get a lot more attention.
Maybe.
Because of who they are. I wanted to ask you too about, because I don't know the answer to this. It's 40 years since the 93 team, or 30 years since the 93 team played and won the SEC. And are they doing anything, a ceremony for that? So any kind of celebration there?
Well, 5 years ago, we did the 93 team
Yeah.
for the 25 years. We haven't done 30s, but we could.
Yeah.
25 years ago, it'd be the 98 team.
That's true.
That team was about as good as any we've ever had here. Let me tell you what, we lost 2 games at FSU, at Tennessee, and they played for the national championship.
And could have won them both.
Could have won them both.
Yeah.
Play or two, the overtime game up there, stuff. I mean, sometimes that happens, but they didn't fold their 10 up. Everybody played in the bowl game. We won the bowl game, and that team finished 5th in the nation, 98 team. So sometimes I almost say, let's bring those guys back, even though they did not win a championship.
Yeah.
They played their hearts out for the University of Florida.
I also wanted to I was thinking about how in 1963 you were just coming onto campus.
60 years ago.
60 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what was you'd already committed, you'd already signed and everything, but when you got here, what was that like for you? Did you feel like a kid out of water, or did you just
No,
jump right in?
well, my parents drove me down, and we stayed in Stark. My mom had an uncle that worked in the state prison, but lived in
Really?
Stark. Yeah.
Really?
So we spent.
Well, I know she lived in
Yeah.
Green Cove at the end, right?
So we spent a night at my aunt's house, second aunt or something like that, in Stark, and then dropped off here and moved in the old dorms there on campus and so forth. And our freshman team, we sort of practiced away from the varsity. They didn't beat up the freshmen like some schools do nowadays. But we had a freshman team, and then had a varsity team. So we were all ineligible to play on the big team. But anyway, it was when I got here earlier, a guy named Alan Kelly had been here in summer school, and he told the equipment guy, I want number 11. The equipment guy said, okay, you got number 11. So I didn't go to summer school. I showed up in fall, and I got with Alan, and I said, why don't we have, I wore 11 too, I said, why don't we say whoever gets to be the starter gets number 11, okay? He said, yeah, that's fine, that's fair, I will do that. So anyway, the word got around to Coach Graves that I wanted number 11. So one day I came in for practice, and Sarge Bannister, the equipment guy, he gave me number 11. I said, no, I'm supposed to get 16. He said, no, not any longer. The head man said, you're wearing number 11. I said, really? I said, okay, I won't argue with you.
Now,
So I got number 11.
did Kelly have problems with you after that?
No, he didn't play much. He had a lot of fun, and actually, I think his son played quarterback at Tennessee later on.
Oh, yeah.
A kid named Kelly played pretty well. And Alan was from Tennessee. He was from Tennessee, and I think his dad may have played with Coach Graves or something. There was a connection there.
So how many games did you play that freshman year when you just?
We played 4. We had 4 games: Georgia, FSU, Miami, and Auburn. We went to 3 of them. Went to FSU, Auburn, and Miami. Somehow or another, we lost that night game at Miami, but we won the other 3 pretty easily too. We had a good freshman team.
Yeah,
In fact, we beat Georgia. I think we beat them something like 44-12
Really?
here in the swamp. Yeah, and so I count that one on my resume as a win in the swamp.
Absolutely.
It was a real game. We kept score that day. We beat the Georgia freshmen.
This will be hard for you to believe, but I think it was 75. Robbie and I went to a freshman game. This still was freshmen playing, and they didn't have a chain gang, so they asked us to come down out of the stands to do the chain. So we're doing the chain, for the freshman game.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of people there watching that game.
No, probably about 50
Yeah.
parents. Yeah, my parents were there. A lot of parents, and that was about it, yeah.
All right, let us talk about our Campus USA play of the weekend. And obviously, Coach is a spokesperson for Campus USA. And I'm a member of Campus USA. I love Campus USA. Let's get to our play of the weekend. And I like celebrations.
Right side of the infield, tags back.
On Saturday, last out.
The smartest thing is our pitcher got away from the mound.
Yeah.
That dirt can hurt when they're all on top of it. But he got right in the nice grass there, beautiful grass area, and they did their little dog pile right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a baseball tradition, right? I mean, it's not really in any, well, I guess softball too, but I mean, not in, like football, people don't dogpile, they just celebrate,
Yeah.
Basketball, you just hug each other, but baseball, you got a dogpile, right?
I tell you, he got the Gatorade bucket, ice bucket, right on top of his head while he was doing that interview. That one, he felt that one.
He did.
That one hurt a little bit.
What was the worst one you ever got?
Well, I got a few early, and if they come down over your head,
Yeah.
it's cold. But I got Jameis Bronis when we got way ahead in some of those SEC championship games and national. I said, get the windbreaker ready. So I got the windbreaker on. I told him, hit me on the shoulders now, fellas. Perfectly legal, but if he can hit you on the shoulders, it's that doesn't hurt there. Doesn't hurt there.
Absolutely. All right, we always love when Coach Spurrier is on here, brought to you by Meldon Law. We'll take a break. We'll come back with Jeff Cardozo doing Yes, No, Where, Maybe, a surprise there for you. And we'll be back here on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another duly noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Spite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, and welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We go to our Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line for the biggest cheesesteak in all of Gainesville, and that would be Jeff Cardozo joining us today. We always appreciate his appearances on the show, and we're ready to play Yes, No, Where, Maybe. Let me ask you this question, Jeff. Did you know that the Wake Forest coach about 12 years ago gave a kidney to one of his players?
I did know that, yes.
Wow. I got to root for them, don't I? Until they get to play Florida.
Yeah, until the finals, of course. And hopefully that'll be what the matchup is. It's obviously two teams playing really good. Wake's been the best maybe all year with LSU, Florida right in there. So it'll be a fun. But at least if you look at the bracket, that other side of the bracket where it's Wake, Stanford, LSU, and Tennessee, that was the preseason 1, 2, 3, and 6 teams in the country.
Wow.
So that side's difficult. The Gators, the easier side, but playing some hot teams right now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and as you know, I mean, it's the College World Series, and you never know what's going to happen. The heroes are made, and villains are discovered. I guess that would be the way it goes. So let's play Yes, No, Where, Maybe with Jeff Cardozo. Of course, it's brought to you by Big Mill's Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way, and a sponsor of our radio show, Jeff. We love Big Mills, and of course, sponsor of our golf tournament as well. Number one. The Jaguars are going to play in Daytona this year. Or not this year, in a couple of years.
Yeah, I would say no way. That's a tough one to fathom. Like, what are you going to do? Build a whole grandstand on the infield? Like, you only have one side of stuff, and the other side would be weird. I think it would be too difficult. It'd be a cool setting, put a lot of people on one side, but not the rest of the way around. I think certainly Orlando or over here in the swamp would be a better option.
I think Orlando's the best option because there are games being played in this stadium. So you're going to have to schedule around that. You're going to have to field turf is going to be an issue. But whatever. I mean, but yeah, a game with one side of the infield holding 100,000 people and the other side holding 10,000. I don't want to watch that. That's not the NFL's brand. In my opinion.
No, not at all.
All right, number two, you're going to be out there for this. Tennessee's playing LSU. You're rooting for Tennessee, which is very hard to do, but I think you are.
You are correct. I would certainly say want Tennessee to win. Although I think a perfect scenario would be like they throw 2 pitches or something. Skeens is on the mound for LSU, and then there's like an 8-hour delay, and then he can't pitch anymore. And then the next day they're about to start again, and something happens where Tennessee gets messed up and Vitello can't do anything. And there's a lot. I know you're a negative rooter, Pat. That's a hatred root. What I would do, but at least somebody has to lose in that one, and then you just hope they knock each other out, and then either Wake or Stanford gets by them, so the Gators don't have to see them in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Jeff, there's a history with Florida to Wake going back to 17, obviously.
Yeah.
Where Brady Singer dropped the most F-bombs in the history of televised games. But I would still rather lose to Wake Forest than lose to either one of those guys. No question about that. All right, finally on Yes, Nowhere, maybe brought to you by Big Mill's Cheesesteak with the great Jeff Cardozo. It's okay to have a milkshake and a steak when you're out there because that's what this town is known for, the milkshakes and the steak. Can you do both at one sitting?
Yes, for sure. Or why don't you just, the milkshake is some dipping sauce. Just, chop off a piece, dunk it in the top of the milkshake, and instead of the steak sauce or Béarnaise sauce, as they say out there. A definite option. I would take that in a heartbeat. I mean, 2 of my favorite things. I know the Drover is already. Certainly all the stuff around that whole park.
Yep.
Duels. It's been 5 years, and we had gone for 4 straight years, and you knew everything about that town. But now all of a sudden things are going to be different. I'm sure it's going to be night and day different from what we saw last time we were there in 18. So looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, it was. I used to enjoy that trip a lot. You got where you're almost spoiled. You expected to go there every year, and now all of a sudden you're like, hey, we're not. They're not going there, and they haven't been there for a while. But I've got a good story about that as well. But Jeff, thanks for joining us on Yes, No, Where, Maybe.
No problem at all. Thanks, Jules.
All right, the great Jeff Cardozo. I'll be joining him a little bit later today and tomorrow for radio as well. Let's go ahead and move on to, and that was Yes, No, Where, Maybe brought to you by Big Mill's Cheesesteak. Let's move on to Adam's Ribco to go Gator of the Week. And for me, and obviously I've got a ton of them that I could use. I could bring up 1 million people, but I'm going to go with Mouse Holloway because it's so funny because we were so involved with Friday night and what happened there. The delay and then I got called out I got called out to Salty Dog, which, look, I wasn't going to go there, but my wife and daughter were going to go there, and I said, I'll go with you. And so 2.5 hours there, and then you go to the game. But it was pretty incredible. And so Friday night, anything else that happened in the world, I didn't know about. I was so into that game. It wasn't until Sunday morning, I'm looking through my text, I go, Florida won the national championship in track again? Not that I was surprised, but I didn't even know they did. So congratulations, Mouse. I mean, I know it got kind of swept under the rug, but I said this in my back nine yesterday. There needs to be a situation where they get all of Mouse's trophies in one place and let everybody get their pictures with it. Everybody, all the fans. Any fans, now again, can't say, oh yeah, I'm a big fan of track. I don't know any of the players, or any of the athletes, but I think that would be a good idea. But we'll see if that happens. But Mouse Holloway is our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the weekend, in a weekend where a lot of stuff was going on, so we give him credit. Also, women's team finished second, which isn't bad. Let's get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks. A lot of you did qualify because you picked 3 as the number of teams from the SEC that would get to Omaha, and 3 is pretty much what it was. You didn't know for sure. A lot of you were nervous because I don't think anybody said 2. Maybe a couple of people did. But anyway, several of you did. We're just going to give you a quick one. It's called the quick picks. And I know it's not going to be settled until after we're
recording stop
from the weekend. But Friday night, Florida, Virginia, who wins? It's not hard to either spell out Florida or Virginia. You can do that. I know that. You guys are very good at that. So we'll do that. All right, that's our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Thanks so much to Kyle over at Leonardo's. In fact, I got to get with him. I may go by there today about some things. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And we love Hesser and Kipke. We've had a lot of conversations back and forth about different things lately. And as you guys all know, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the area of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. If you don't believe me, just check out their more than 55 5-star Google reviews, or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920, the great Hesser and Kipke. Let's start off with a really sad story. Number one, sprinter Tori Bowie, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, especially since she's passed away. And it's really a sad story. She was 8 months pregnant. There was a childbirth complication. I get the impression that she was alone when it happened. And that, it's just makes me sad to think about. I mean, this is somebody who won Olympic medals. She won, I think, a silver and 2 bronzes. Won some other gold medals in other events. Just a great athlete, and man, it just makes you sad. It makes you sad. It makes you, when you read those kind of stories. I mean, this is somebody who was one of ours too in Florida. She was I think in Orlando area. You read that kind of story and you want to weep, and you really do. There's a lot of negative. Treat Williams dying this weekend and again, an accident, which wasn't his fault, but a lot of people. But anyway, number 2 on Hesser and Kipke 3 things. I kept waiting for the story on why the Live Tour and the PGA Tour merged, and I'm still getting a bunch of stuff that it boggles the mind. But in the end, the bottom line story was that that the tour could not afford. They couldn't go head to head financially with the Saudi Arabians. So they said, this guy Jimmy Dunn, who most of you don't know, and I don't know. I read a great story by Mark Schleybaugh on it. We'll get Mark on in a couple of weeks to talk about it. But that was that was the meeting that they brokered the deal. And they brokered it several weeks ago. It wasn't like it just happened overnight. And now you see why. I mean, the tour had bumped up a lot of money trying to get guys not to go, and then they were out of money. And they were having to do all these lawsuits. But the difference is, the Live Tour guys are just saying, hey, what, another $1 trillion? We got no problem. And so that was the reason. I'm starting to understand it a little bit now, finally. I feel like I have a better grip on it, and hopefully it won't be talked about too much. Although Monday night I was watching, and that's all they were talking about on the Golf Channel. But when the golf starts, it'll be a different story. And finally, number 3 on Hesser and Kipke's 3 things. Jordy Ball, who I don't know if you know very much about her. She's a really good pitcher for Oklahoma, the national champs 2 years in a row, 44-2. A sophomore decided she was going to transfer to Nebraska out of nowhere. People were blown away by it, especially in the Oklahoma community, and Nebraska's thrilled. But whatever reason she wanted to go home, she's from that area, whatever reason it was, let her have it. Quit talking about her. People are getting angry and stuff. How can you leave? How can you do that? How can you walk away from a 3-time national champ? Maybe she wanted to. Maybe her parents are having problems. Maybe her dad's sick. Maybe her mom's sick. Maybe she's got a boyfriend back there. It's not working out. Maybe she's got a girlfriend back. Who knows why? Let this person deal with her life. That's all you need to do. Just let it go. It's going to be interesting to see how good Nebraska gets. But that's, in the end, all the sports we get all fired up and crazy about, it's all about people. It's still about human beings. When I lose my mind about J.C. Deacon and Dudley Hart and all these golfers, and when I lose my mind about Sully and everything, and Josh Rivera and everything, it's still more about the person than it is the player and the result. Stay with that theory and you'll be fine. All right, let's get to our Ben Eige Odell Realty games of the week. And we already gave you some of the baseball games a little bit ahead of time, but we wanted to tell you about those. But let's talk about Thursday night. The golf, which I am going to be so into, because that course looks like it's going to beat these guys up. 1 to 8 o'clock on the USA Network, and then 8 to 11 on NBC. Prime time major golf. There's nothing better in the world. Nothing better in the world than prime time major golf. You're sitting there and you can't find anything to watch, and there's a major on in the middle of the night. I love it. I love it. So it's 1 to 8 and then 8 to 11 on NBC. Wednesday, baseball game that's on, Yankees and Mets. The team's doing that great, but we'll see what happens there. I'm still bitter because the Braves blew a 5-2 lead against a team that had a 9-game losing streak last night. But anyway, that game is at 7 on ESPN. And then Thursday, the Angels at Rangers. If you're watching that, you're a baseball nut. You're a seam head. But I know it's not they're bad teams. I just don't care. 8:05 on FS1. And then I did want to, I'm trying to do this all through the talking season and give you a college football game to look forward to. Right now we're in the very early part of it. I'm going to give you this one the first weekend of the season, not the weekend. Florida plays on a Thursday. There's a week 0. No, there's not that many good games. But there's a lot of good games on week 1, which is, and I know, I'm talking about week 0, which I said I would never do. But week 1, Colorado at TCU on Fox. That's a noon game. I am looking forward to that game. I will say I'm ready to crank it up. It's 8 weeks till college football season, and I'm already excited about it. So that is our Ben Eige Odell Realty games of the week. We'll give you the games of the weekend again this weekend because obviously we have no NBA. There is college baseball. That's it. That's all we got. But we'll give you some other Major League Baseball games for the games of the weekend and week games of the week, and then we'll give you some other of the college football games coming up. Maybe we'll give you some NFL games like the first week too, just to let you know. Finally, as we finish it up here today, Pat Dooley story time. I had one that I was going to tell, and you know what I decided? I said, nah, save that for Thursday, because Thursday for Friday. It's a better story then. So here's the story I'm going with. Pat Dooley story time, of course, brought to you by Eastlake Pediatrics and Michael Jordan. We appreciate him. So this very shirt that I'm wearing here, which is, what's it say? Camping World Bowl. You know, I get a lot of different shirts. So Camping World Bowl shirt, I put it on last week, and then I had black pants, and I was getting ready to go to the game, and Florida versus Texas Tech, and I said, oh, they wear black. That's one of their main colors. It's black and red. I go, I gotta change clothes. So I went back and changed clothes. The only reason I did that, I couldn't wear Gator stuff because I had a credential. I was there as a media representative, and I wrote about it for different people. But so I couldn't wear. I didn't want to wear either color. And this goes back a long way. In fact, I think my guy Greg Larson wrote a big piece about how you have to be careful what you wear, and sometimes you don't know. And all I could think about was the 2000, I think it was 5 Super Regional Florida FSU, and I was wearing a red golf shirt that I had gotten at the College World Series one year. And it was a golf course we played, and it was a great golf course. We loved it. Rusty Hampton and I think Rick Cleveland played with me. And the shirt, though, had a little Indian guy on it because it was, I remember the name of it, like Tomahawk Golf Course, whatever it was. So it was just a nice shirt. I liked it. It fit me, which was hard to do then. And Jeremy Foley comes up to me and goes, hey, he goes, what are you wearing that for? He goes, what are you, a Seminole fan? Is that the deal? And I was like, no, what? Then another time, I go, I'm wearing a Masters shirt. And I'm not even thinking about it. It's gold. And of course, the Masters logo is gold. I'm sorry, the Masters logo was gold. The shirt was purple. I didn't even think about it. I walk in, then I realized, I'm at an LSU Florida game. That's probably not going to go over well. And sure enough, Skip Bertman comes up and he goes, hey, nice shirt. Love it, man. You're an LSU guy? And I go, no. You've got, I mean, this is something as a journalist you have to worry about. Newspaper guys do still. I assume all the online guys still do. You've got to make sure you're not wearing the wrong colors. It's just the way it is. All right. I got a good story for you on Friday, too, so make sure you're listening in for that. Hopefully we have a great guest. If we don't have a great guest, we'll have a good guest. You know that. We'll be back, though, with another show on Friday, and you'll be able to watch it here on it's not even a network, the Weeby Network. We'll call it the Weeby Network. All right. Until then, I am Pat Dooley saying I'm deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.